So every human life includes joy and sorrow, celebrations and grief, abundance and at times scarcity, success and disappointment. All those emotional highs and lows are a part of the full human experience. And when life feels like it's unraveling, when challenges come, sometimes it feels like one after the other, or at times when unexpected or unwanted events in our lives turn everything upside down, it's only natural to ask, why is this happening? How many of you have said in your life, why is this happening? As we continue with this series based on the book This Life Is Yours by Linda Martella Whitsett and her daughter Alecia, this week we're exploring the value of questioning and how that can support us in our journey to experience and express our innate wholeness, which is really what is the journey that we are here to embark upon. Human beings have asked why since the beginning of time, and answers to that question have been shaped by people and beliefs in every era of humanity. The author writes that depending upon the worldview of the questioner, depending upon the lens of the questioner who's asking that why, a cause can be determined to be natural, mental, emotional, moral, supernatural. And I'm going to share a few of those of how this has showed up perhaps in our own lives, but certainly in the world that we live in today. And I just ask you to pay attention, to see what your own gut reactions are to these different lenses, what you might be agreeing with, where you might have some part of you arguing with that particular worldview. The most popular view, at least in our Western lens of Christianity, is that God sends sickness and distress for a couple of different reasons. One, it might be to test us. You can think Job in the Old Testament, or to teach us, or in some cases to punish us. Our life events in this lens are reflective of divine decisions about our worth from that person, that thing, that energy that we call God. Others blame evil spirits, those ones that seek to shake our faith and our allegiance to God. I'll tell you, I have a woman that I see, a nurse practitioner, and this was probably about 6 months ago, and they are very traditional Christians. And we were talking, and she was talking about how challenging life had been, and she's like, and the devil is trying to get me at every corner, and I mean, this was very serious for her. This was her worldview, and she was, to support others who are of the Christian faith, and because I'm a minister, she sees me in that same lens. She was giving out, I don't know if you got one of these, Sarah, she was giving out little kits, and it had some anointing oil in it. It had a bracelet that said, God gives me strength, and it was instructions about how to anoint your space to keep the devil from getting in. There was music that went along with it. It was a whole, and she was doing this out of the kindness and the goodness of her heart. She was really wanting people, since she had this experience, other people to feel safe, and she said it worked. Once she did that, and she believed it, then it seemed like life was not quite so challenging. A slightly kinder, gentler lens may be that God sends sickness and distress to us for the glory of God. God does not send these things to hurt us, rather sends it to heal us as a display, as an expression of the power and the glory of that God. In both Islam and Judaism, the teaching is that suffering is caused by the will of God, and faith is strengthened. It is a way for us to make ourselves more worthy, because we were not born worthy, to be in that company, to be in that state of being, to ascend to those spaces where love is all there is. And those who reject the mainstream religious lens are often left with the belief that life's events are random, chaotic, and outside of our control. That difficult events happen because life is unpredictable, and certainly at times it feels like hostile. The author, and many of those that have been studying unity, understanding, and principles, offer a different lens from which to see these events, something that is grounded in what has more popularly been called the law of attraction. In Unity, our co-founders called it the law of mind action. And this, like other laws of nature, like gravity, is true for everyone, every time. All matter gets pulled towards the gravitational center. And spiritually, our understanding is love becomes the great magnet pulling us towards harmony and unity in both wanted and unwanted circumstances. So the law of attraction, as you saw up there, says that your mind is a magnet. And if you think of blessings, you attract blessings. And if you think of problems, then you attract more problems. So it is there as a reminder to cultivate good thoughts and to remain positive. This law of attraction or mind action states that we are the at least co-creator of our own experience, our own reality, through our thoughts, through our feelings, and through our beliefs. And yet I want you to hear this. This is the most important piece that I'm going to say to you today. It's often misinterpreted to mean that we create our circumstances, that we create disease and heartbreak and devastating events, often leading to unnecessary condemnation and despair. We do not. At least I'm going to offer that to you as one way to see this. Nor does it mean that we gravitate towards unwanted conditions in order to learn lessons. I believe that one for a while. Or that we attract conditions so that we can grow through them. We do not. You do not cause bad things to come your way. A looming, mysterious force called God or fate does not send awful circumstances your way as if you deserved them because of your own thoughts, feelings, beliefs, worries, judgments, fear, whatever you want to wrap around that. The arising of life's events is infinitely too complex to attribute to one person's thoughts or feelings or actions. I probably, in my lifetime, have had all of these as different lenses. Sometimes they're a kaleidoscope of each one of these all intermixing together, depending upon what the experience is and what I am feeling in that particular moment. This begs the question then, we're back to the bigger why. And what am I responsible for in this process? The deeper law of attraction, or the law of mind action, understanding claims that you are responsible for your experience. Full stop. Whatever it is that you're experiencing, you're responsible for how you show up for that. And it's in any given moment. And what you reap out of that is how you showed up to that experience. You either reap the benefits of awake and saying, somehow there's something for me in this. Somehow this is an invitation to step into love in a greater way than perhaps I've been able to do in the past. Sometimes this is an invitation to let go of judgments about yourself or about others. This has been a challenge, I think, for those who are initially getting into unity and its principles and the understanding of this idea of co-creation, because the default then is to blame ourselves, or even worse, what we often call metaphysical malpractice, to say to somebody else who has experienced disease, well, what was your thinking that caused you to create that for yourself? Not the most healing thing you can say to someone when they're going through it. Just gonna, give you a heads up. You may not get the kind of reaction that you hope for if you were sharing that with them. So instead of asking, how do I attract what I want, or how do I create the thoughts that will bring just the things I want into my life, a better question is, how do I align with what's already spiritually true? And what is that? That we have been born whole, complete. That is our eternal nature. We have been born from the very energy of love and from abundance. And if that wholeness and that love and that abundance are lacking in our life experience, it may and is often tied to our sense of worthiness. It is that sense that we may have adopted when we were younger, that somehow we weren't worthy enough to experience that, or wasn't enough that we could really have the kind of abundance that we long for. All of those things play a role in our willingness to receive what might be already there, but we say no thank you to. The deeper law becomes, you allow into your life what you believe you are worthy of receiving. So instead of this law that says, if I think this, then I'm going to get that, it becomes an invitation to know in a deeper way who we truly are, a divine expression of God, and live from that truth. And our experience then will reflect this wholeness regardless of what our experience is. And it's not very easy to do. Sounds quite simple. But as I said before, it's very complex, both in our own psyche and in the psyches of everybody else that are part of this human journey. So attraction becomes less about what we might be pulling into us that we want to have as a part of us, and it begins to refocus our attention about expressing and allowing what is already ours, at least in spirit. That's the inner journey. So we're going to take a moment to see if we can't adjust our lenses today as we move into a time of meditation, just a time where we can get quiet and bring our attention inward. In order to do this, you might want to close your eyes or just soften your gaze and focus on some point in the room. And we always begin with that breath, because the breath is always bringing us into this present moment. When we are focused on our breathing, we are in this now moment. And let the thought and the accompanying feeling that I am a divine child of God begin to circulate in your heart space. What does that feel like to know that you are a divine expression of that eternal energy of love that is at the very center of all of creation. And into this heart space, bring into your mind and your awareness a situation in your life right now that feels challenging. It may be something that you are personally going through. It may be challenging circumstances in our world. Something that stirs questions or discomfort or even pain. And without trying to change it, just simply notice, what lens am I using to see this? Am I seeing it through a lens of judgment, believing that something is wrong with me or perhaps wrong with them? Am I looking through the lens of striving, thinking that as long as I can work a little harder or do a little better, I will receive what I'm working towards, that I just have to earn it? Perhaps it's the lens of seeing the situation through past circumstances and experience, assuming that as it shows up once again in your life, it's always going to be this way. Just notice, gently, honestly, without criticism of self or others, the beliefs that are becoming the lens in which you're seeing and experiencing this situation. Now take another slow, deep breath and imagine setting those lenses down for a moment, just letting them go, and in that space allowing a new awareness to arise. What if I could look at this through the lens knowing that there is nothing wrong or bad or sinful about me? What if I'm already worthy? What if life is not judging me or is not against me, but inviting me into a new awareness of what is eternally true and already living within me? Feel into this new lens, this lens of truth, spiritual truth, of worthiness, of openness, of love. And imagine how that would shift your experience. There's something ready within you to be received, to be revealed, to be expressed. And all that is yours to do is to simply allow. So it is in that energy of allowing that you begin to bring your awareness back to this time and space. Once again, feeling the breath moving in and out of your body, feeling the chair that's supporting you. And whenever you're ready, to once again open your eyes. So the authors at the end of this chapter speak to what we often call longing or desire. That something that's within us that it seems like once we have reached a certain level of achievement, there's something else that rises up that says, but what about this? And even if we're not in the moment of feeling that, we're usually in a space of like, well, at least let's get rid of these difficult things, let's at least, that's my desire, to make these things that are so challenging for me go away. And many people interpret longing through this lens of unworthiness or lack. That somehow, if this just comes into my awareness, into my experience of life, then I will be filled. It will create in me that sense that doesn't always seem to be there, whether it's desiring and longing for a sense of wholeness or a sense of abundance or just a sense of knowing that you are part of something that is divine. We often say, well, I want this because I don't have it. If I only had it, then I wouldn't, life would be good. Or this desire proves that something is missing, that some part of me still needs to do something more. Or I'll be fulfilled. I'll have that sense of fulfillment once this shows up in my life, whether that's relationships, whether that's a certain job, whether that's a certain level of money in your bank account, whether that's, purpose and passion of what you're going to do in life, all of that. And this teaching invites us to work with this in a different way. And to understand that you don't long for something because it's absent. You long for it because it's already part of your divine nature, and that's the part that's seeking to express out. Think about that for a minute. We don't long for it because we need it in order to feel complete. The longing comes from that innate desire as something new that wants to express this part of us, this eternal part of us. In other words, you long for love because love that's already within you wants to have an avenue to be expressed. That you long for healing because that wholeness that is your innate nature wants to express itself. That you long for peace because peace is your very essence. It is that part of you that says it's already here, but we long to see it expressed. You long for purpose because that's what you are meant to express in this human walk, in this life. Through this lens of wholeness and abundance, longing now becomes a signal from our deeper spiritual nature, an invitation to recognize what is already ours in truth. It is a pull towards greater expression of who we are. In this understanding, longing simply becomes a spiritual compass for us, a pointer to our true identity, a guide for where we are ready to expand, a call to receive, not necessarily chase. And when we have the capacity to look at life through this lens, we discover that we truly can say, thank you, God, for everything. Well, it is our time now to share of our gifts with this ministry. In a few moments, the ushers are going to invite you to come up row by row, and you can place whatever you're offering today in the large basket, and then in the smaller basket, receive an affirmation to bless you this week. And we know many of you give electronically, so this, even if this is not your Sunday to share anything in the basket, or you give through another means, we still want you to come and experience being in that flow of giving and receiving. You can simply add a card you'll find in front of you that says you give electronically, or just add your energy of abundance, knowing that that flow is in and through this ministry for all that we need is met with ease and with grace, and we are just so grateful, and we bless every bit, whether it's small or large, that flows in and then blesses others in our community with our tithes. So let us take what we offer today into our hands, into our hearts, and bless it together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Father, Mother God.
All right, let's stand up together. We'll join hands, and we're going to do our peace song.
And we open ourselves to that lens of peace and love and abundance as we go into this week, knowing our prayer for protection as we do a call and response. The light of God surrounds us.
I am the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us.
I am the love of God.
The power of God protects us.
I am the power of God.
The presence of God watches over us.
I am the presence of God.
Together, wherever we are, God is, and all is well. All right.